Hello, who is this?
Well, look who finally decided to answer. You felt it, didn't you? That strange heaviness in your chest tonight, that pressure in the air, that feeling like something invisible just walked into your life and sat down right in front of you. That wasn't anxiety, that wasn't fear. That was your soul realizing the version of you that kept surviving crumbs is dying. And deep down, you already know it. Because some nights are not ordinary. Some nights don't come to comfort you. Some nights come to end you. Not your body, not your breathing. The weak version of you. The version that kept begging for love from people who only came close enough to study your wounds. The version that kept shrinking itself, so insecure people could feel taller. The version that kept calling pain patience, when really, you were just afraid to become what your suffering was trying to create.
Wait, how do you know that? Huh?
Because people like you always sound the same right before they change. Your silence gets louder, your heart gets colder, and your eyes stop asking the world for permission. That's the part nobody warns you about. The moment everything changes overnight. It doesn't feel beautiful, it feels brutal. It feels like staring at your own reflection and realizing the person in the mirror has been betraying you for years. It feels like waking up and seeing every fake smile for what it really was. Every I care about you that was actually control. Every I'm proud of you that secretly carried jealousy. Every I love you that only existed while you stayed small enough to manage. And once you see that, you can never unsee it. That is where your real life begins. Not when they clap for you, not when they understand you, not when they suddenly decide your pain matters. No, your real life begins the moment you stop waiting for anybody to save you. Because the truth is ugly. Nobody was coming. Nobody was ever coming. Not when you were breaking in silence. Not when you cried, when nobody could hear you. Not when your soul was collapsing behind that smile you kept handing people. And that truth either destroys a person or awakens one.
So, what happens now?
Now the dangerous part begins. Because pain does something terrifying to people who survive it. It removes the need to be liked. And once a person no longer needs approval, they become impossible to control. That's when your energy changes. That's when rooms feel you before you speak. That's when the same people who ignored you start watching you. That's when the same people who laughed at your name suddenly whisper it. Because nothing scares people more than someone they thought was broken, coming back unrecognizable. And that's exactly what's happening to you. You are not becoming bitter. You are becoming aware. You are not becoming cruel. You are becoming untouchable. You are not losing your heart. You are finally losing your attachment to people who kept using it against you. That's why tonight feels different. Because tonight your soul is done negotiating, done explaining, done chasing, done bleeding for people who only loved the version of you that stayed easy to replace. And once that part of you dies, something colder takes its place, something calmer, something sharper, something that no longer needs revenge because success itself becomes the punishment.
They will notice arts. Huh? Won't they?
Oh, they already have. They noticed your silence stopped sounding weak. They noticed your absence started feeling heavy. They noticed the version of you they dismissed is slowly becoming the one they can't stop thinking about. Because people always notice when the person they underestimated stops needing them. That kind of power is different. It doesn't beg, it doesn't scream, it doesn't chase, it simply becomes. And the most terrifying part, you won't need to hurt anyone. Because the moment they see what you become, they'll hurt themselves trying to understand how they lost access to someone they thought would always stay the same. That's what awakening really is. It is not healing softly. Don't you dare hang up on me now. Not after your soul finally picked up the call your mind has been avoiding for years. Because this right here, this moment, this is the exact moment most people run from. Not because they are weak, because the truth feels heavier than the lies they built their whole identity around. And you can hear it in your own breathing right now. That hesitation, that fear, that quiet panic creeping into your chest. Because a part of you already knows this conversation was never about a phone. It was about the version of you that can no longer hide from itself. See, people think change happens slowly, little by little, step by step. But sometimes life doesn't whisper. Sometimes life kicks the door off the hinges of your comfort and drags you face first into the truth you kept trying to postpone. That is why everything can change in one night. One betrayal, one disappointment, one silence, one moment where somebody shows you exactly who they are, and suddenly the innocence inside you never returns. That is how awakening really begins. Not with peace, with pain. Because pain is the language reality uses when your spirit has ignored every softer warning. And once you understand that, your suffering stops looking like punishment. It starts looking like preparation. Every sleepless night was preparing your mind. Every heartbreak was sharpening your vision. Every rejection was cutting away the weak parts of you that still needed validation from people who could barely validate themselves. That's why the people around you cannot understand what is happening to you. They think you're becoming distant. They think you're becoming cold. They think you changed too much. No. You simply stop betraying yourself to make other people comfortable, and that kind of transformation terrifies people who still live as prisoners inside their own masks, because the moment you stop needing permission, you become a mirror. And most people cannot stand mirrors, because mirrors do not lie. Mirrors reveal. They reveal who stayed small, who stayed fake, who stayed jealous, who smiled in your face, while secretly hoping life would break you enough to make them feel superior. And the moment you rise in front of those people, their own darkness starts choking them. That is why your silence suddenly feels louder than their opinions, because silence from a healed person sounds different. It carries weight, it carries warning, it carries a presence that says, I know exactly who I am now, and I will never be that easy to destroy again. That is the energy they feel around you now, and even when you say nothing, even when you simply walk into a room, even when you just exist. Because power was never in your voice, power was always in what survived after everything tried to break it, and that is what they can feel now. Not confidence, not ego, not pride, survival, pure survival turned into presence. That kind of presence cannot be copied, it cannot be taught, it cannot be borrowed. It can only be earned through nights that nearly ended you. And those nights built something inside you that people are only starting to notice now. Something sharper, something calmer, something that no longer chases closure because it has become stronger than the pain that once demanded it. That is why revenge looks different now. You no longer need to scream. You no longer need to prove. You no longer need to explain your worth to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Your existence becomes the answer. Your discipline becomes the answer. Your peace becomes the answer. Your success becomes the answer. And the cruelest part of all, the same people who once overlooked you will have front row seats to the person they helped create. They will watch the version of you they once dismissed become the version they can never ignore again. And that kind of justice does not need anger. It only needs time. Huh? You still there? Good. I knew you wouldn't hang up, because now you can feel it too. That shift in your mind, like something inside you is no longer asking questions. It's starting to decide. That's the dangerous part. Not anger, not sadness, decision. Because once a mind stops asking why me and starts asking why not me, everything changes. Everything. And listen carefully. Don't mistake this calm for comfort. This is not comfort. This is clarity, the kind that burns illusions without making a sound. Most people are still asleep in their excuses. They call it life. They call it bad timing. They call it I'll try tomorrow. But really, they are just avoiding the moment they have to face themselves. But you're not fully asleep anymore. That's why this feels heavy.
I don't understand. What do you want from me?
Don't you dare hang up on reality now. You finally picked up the call your comfort has been ignoring for years. So stay on the line. What do I want from you? Nothing. That's the point. Nobody's coming to ask for permission anymore. Nobody's coming to hand you a new life wrapped in hope and timing and luck. That story was comfortable, but it was fake. No, what I want is simple. I want you to hear this without flinching. Everything you thought was holding you back was actually revealing you. Your environment didn't stop you. Your thoughts did. Your fear didn't protect you. It negotiated your potential down to something survivable. And now, look at you, standing in the exact same life, but feeling like the walls are different. That's because you are. Because something inside you is no longer impressed by excuses. It's no longer moved by sympathy. It's no longer waiting for the perfect moment. It's just watching, calculating, becoming. And that scares people. Not your words, not your past, but the version of you that is starting to appear when you stop reacting and start responding. That version, it doesn't beg, it doesn't explain, it doesn't chase, it builds quietly, ruthlessly, consistently, and the world hates that kind of energy at first because it doesn't ask for approval.
Why does I feel like I'm losing something?
Losing? No, that's your old language trying to survive. You're not losing anything, you're shedding, and shedding always feels like loss. Until you realize you were carrying dead weight that called itself identity. The approval you chased, gone. The validation you begged for, gone. The versions of you that bent just to be accepted, gone. And what remains is not loud, not pretty, not convenient. It's real. And real doesn't fit inside the life you used to tolerate. That's why everything feels unstable right now, because you're not breaking. You're upgrading into something your past cannot recognize. And the people who used to define you, they will be the first to notice the silence where your old self used to be, and they won't understand it. They'll try to label it cold, changed, distant, different. Let them. Labels are what people use when they lose access, because deep down, they already know. You didn't get worse, you got unreachable. And that is where everything truly changes overnight. Only forward. And that's where most people freeze. Not because they can't move, but because forward means responsibility. No more hiding behind timing. No more blaming the world. No more waiting for permission from life to finally begin. And you can feel it now, can't you? That uncomfortable silence after truth hits. That moment where your thoughts stop arguing and just listen. That's not weakness, that's the first crack in the illusion, because once you see your life clearly, you realize something dangerous. Nobody was holding you down the way you thought. They were just benefiting from you staying down. Every person who told you, be patient, while you were drowning. Every person who said, it will get better, while doing nothing to help you rise. Every person who smiled at your struggle, because it made them feel safe about their own mediocrity. They were never your cage. They were just the audience of your hesitation.
So, what I'm supposed to do with this feeling now? It feels like everything I believed is collapsing, but I can't go back to how I was before.
Good. That right there, that's the first honest thing you've said. You're not supposed to fix that feeling, you're supposed to follow it, because that collapse isn't destruction, it's alignment. Everything false inside you is losing stability. Everything real is trying to surface. And to someone addicted to comfort illusions, that feels like chaos. But let me be very clear, you don't go back from this, because once awareness expands, shrinking again feels like suffocation. Once standards rise, old environments feel like disrespect. Once silence becomes power, old versions of yourself feel like strangers. And that's where everything shifts overnight, not outside, inside. People think transformation is a celebration. It's not. It's a separation. The version of you that tolerated less and dies. The version that begged for clarity dies. The version that accepted confusion as love dies. And what remains is something most people don't recognize at first. Not because it's new, but because it finally stopped lying. And that version, it doesn't ask the world, am I enough? It moves like it already knows the answer.
And if people do not accept me, am I right?
Then you finally understand. You were never meant to be accepted by everyone. You were meant to become undeniable to yourself. Because the moment you stop negotiating your existence, the world stops having leverage over you. And that is where power begins.
I don't know what I'm feeling anymore. It's like my chest is heavy, but my mind is awake, Everything you are saying feels real, too real. Like I have been avoiding it my whole life, but if I accept this, I don't know who I will become.
That's the exact sentence every transformation fears hearing. I don't know who I'll become. Because the truth is, you were never becoming someone new. You were just finally dropping everything you were never meant to carry. All those roles, all those expectations, all those forced smiles. They weren't you. They were survival layers, and now survival is ending. And yes, it feels unstable, because stability built on lies always collapses first. But listen closely, this isn't loss, this is exposure. The real you isn't being created, it's being uncovered. And what's underneath? It's not soft, it's not fragile, it's not confused, it's aware. And that's what people don't understand about awakening. They think it's about becoming stronger. No, it's about becoming honest enough that weakness stops controlling you. Every excuse you once used starts sounding choosier, unfamiliar, almost embarrassing. Every fear you protected starts looking smaller than the life you postponed. And every limitation you accepted starts feeling like a decision you never actually agreed to. Because once perception changes, reality loses its disguise. You start seeing how much of your life was shaped by reaction instead of intention. You didn't choose everything. You responded to everything. You adapted. You survived. You adjusted. And in that process, you slowly forgot you were allowed to decide. That's why this moment feels heavy. Not because you're breaking, but because you're no longer bending. And when something flexible becomes firm after years of pressure, it doesn't feel comfortable at first. It feels unfamiliar. But that unfamiliarity, that's where power begins. Because power is not loud. Power is not emotional. Power is not approval seeking. Power is control over direction, control over attention, control over response. And the moment you stop reacting to everything, you start shaping everything. That's the shift happening overnight, not outside, inside, a silent replacement of identity. The version of you that begged for understanding is fading. The version that needed permission is dissolving. And what remains is something precise, something intentional, something that no longer asks life what it is supposed to be, but tells life what it will no longer tolerate. And that is the moment everything changes permanently.